Hello everyone, my name's Phawx. This is Sackboy running on the Steam Deck. This particular video is going to be going over some of the optimizations that I did on my side to balance image quality versus battery life and performance. If you go ahead and check below in the chapter links below, they're going to be separated by battery life, image quality, and performance. So if you wanted to know what kind of settings to run so you can quickly and easily just set those and get going playing based on your own particular preference, then this is going to be the video for you. Before we begin, the only thing I want to say is that I have a preference for 40 Hz, 40 FPS, only because that is a really good balance between battery life, image quality, and performance. That seems like the real total package there for me, but I also take a look at 60 FPS and 30 FPS and try to exaggerate battery life in either direction. That's pretty much it. Let's get into it.
Alright, up first is going to be my optimized settings for getting the best frame rate while also keeping image quality rather high. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. I am keeping it at 60 FPS, but you will pay for this in power usage. Right now we're looking at like around 22 watt. It'll jump up to about 25 watts, so you're looking at close to an hour and 40 minutes of battery life if you use these settings. But let's go ahead and just jump into the settings so you can see what they look like. So we're going to go over to graphics. Now this preset is custom, so we want ambient occlusion to high, particle effects to high, textures very high, dynamic shadows very high, screen space reflections, anti-aliasing very high, and render quality at 85%. Make sure to check off additional effect lighting. Keep enhanced object detail checked on. Take off enhanced hair visuals and leave these other two checked. You can have this frame rate be 60, that doesn't matter, or 120. And at this point we get all of the visual goodies, so we still have screen space reflections going, and it looks rather impressive on a handheld screen. So we're going to go ahead and pop this off, just so you can see. Keep an eye on our frame rate here. You're going to see it dip a little bit as we go and play. But for the most part we can maintain a pretty healthy 60 here. And like I said earlier, it's not going to stay hugging to 60 the entire time. There will be periods of time where it will dip below, but completely playable at a reduced resolution but hitting 60 FPS. Let's take a look at some other settings here. Now let's say you wanted to boost render quality up, so let's go ahead and do very high. So this is just the very high preset. We're going to keep render quality at 100% and everything else at maximum. At this point, what I would recommend is keeping, this is going to be maximum quality, but because we're not going to be able to satisfy even 50 FPS frequently, or even 45 FPS, because at this setting I found that it's pretty difficult to maintain above 40. So this is where I would recommend pushing your refresh rate down to 40. And now we're going to have a consistent 40 FPS with maximum settings. With these settings you are going to be 800p, full render resolution, and max settings. Battery life is around 2.5 hours at this particular setting. Let's go ahead and take a look at it again. Most of our battery life savings are by reducing the frame rate to 40 FPS, but we do get full image quality by having most everything on and maxed out. Now these settings should look similar because these are the same settings that I use to hit 60 FPS. The only difference here is we're using the same thing but keeping that 40 FPS target lock on. So all the same settings here. We have the render quality at 80%. These two check marks off, but we are keeping 40 FPS. And with this setting, we're going to be using around 12.5 watt total throughout the entire game. And at this settings, you're going to be looking at 3.5 hours of battery life. Now, if you just wanted to see really good settings but maximizing battery life, let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so first things first, we're going to want to go and push our frame rate back up to 60. All right, and then we're going to want to target our frame limit at 30 FPS. Okay, so this is going to be my maximum battery saver setting. So if we look here, we're using around 9.2 watt. This should give you nearly 4 hours and change of battery life. If we take a look at our settings, first let's go ahead and jump into our quick access menu. So you can see that my refresh rate is at 60, but I target my frame rate limit to 30. This will put a 30 FPS cap on there for me, and especially I enabled a thermal power limit, a TDP limit of 4 watts. So this is a really, really extremely low power. And then if we go to graphics, you can see all the different settings I chose. So ambient occlusion is off, particle effects are low. This is actually necessary for when you're actually playing through the game to have a more consistent 30 FPS. For textures, you can keep that at very high. Dynamic shadows at medium. This setting, keep your screen space reflections off. This is just to have a more steady at 30 FPS. Anti-aliasing, I turned off just because image quality wise, I actually prefer it. With render quality, you will have to take it down a little bit more. This is at 70%. And I turned off a few other things. So the only thing I kept on was enhanced object detail. And I like having that on just because it just enough extra detail added without actually really impacting frame rate all that much. Everything else is off. I have the frame rate limit unlimited here just because there's no reason to keep it otherwise. And with these settings, you can be looking to have a little bit over 4 hours of battery life. Now with the game blown up as large as this is, you can start to see the imperfections, but when you're playing on a small screen like the Steam Deck, it really isn't as apparent.
So that's it for my look of Sackboy on the Steam Deck. It really is a sensational game. I'm so happy that Sony is now porting a lot of their games to PC. I'm looking forward to that continuing on in the future. Personally, I'm going to wait for God of War Ragnarok for PC. I know a lot of people are going to be playing it like now, but I am okay with waiting because my backlog is forever long. That is my look. Whichever playstyle you like, there is no wrong way. Feel free to kind of dabble in the settings and try to pick whatever you find to be the best for yourself. But as always, thank you for your time, and thanks for watching.